The 50-30-20 rule sounds responsible. Needs, wants, savings. Simple, easy to remember. And that's exactly where it can get people into trouble, especially young adults making decent money, paying their bills, but still feeling broke. Because the 50-30-20 rule can make you feel like you have control, when really all you have is a category. And categories are not control. The rule tells you how to divide your paycheck, but it doesn't tell you what happens after payday. And that's where the budget breaks. You get paid. The money lands in checking. You pay the obvious bills: housing, utilities, car payment, phone, groceries, maybe student loans. Then you look at the balance and think, ooh, I'm Gucci. Maybe. But your checking balance is not your safe to spend number. That balance may still need to cover things that don't show up every month. Let's say car insurance if you pay it quarterly, Christmas, taxes, a car repair, the stuff people call unexpected, even though most of it shows up every year like it had a reservation. The problem isn't always that the expense was a surprise. The problem is that the money had nowhere to wait. That's where the 50-30-20 rule breaks down. Oh, now it works on paper, but real life has timing. A bill that comes due every 6 months, it doesn't care that your budget is monthly. Christmas doesn't care that you forgot about it until December. And your car definitely doesn't care that you were just getting comfortably financially and it decides it needs new tires. Then there's the wants category. This is where the rule can get dangerous because people see wants and treat it like permission. Eating out, shopping, weekend trips, new phones, concert tickets. All of it gets labeled as wants. And now the spending, it feels responsible because it fits inside a category. But a label isn't control. Sometimes the budget isn't stopping the spending, it's just making the spending look organized. The wants category can become a permission slip for lifestyle inflation. And not all wants are equal. Some wants end when you pay for them. Dinner out is over when dinner is over. A concert ticket is done when the concert is done. But other wants become monthly obligations. A bigger apartment, a car payment, a finance phone, furniture payments, subscriptions, a pet you didn't plan for, even buy now, pay later purchases. Some of these may be reasonable choices, but once they become monthly obligations, they change your cash flow. They raise the cost of being you every month. And once a want becomes a fixed expense, it starts acting like a need. That's how people slowly build a life that's expensive to maintain. Then later they wonder why there's no breathing room. The 50-30-20 rule doesn't stop that. It usually shows up after those decisions have already been made. That's why I don't like using it as the whole plan. It doesn't know what financial season you're in. Someone with little debt and strong cash flow, they may look at the rule and think, hey, great, I can spend more. And maybe that's the season to build wealth faster for that person. Save for a house, build flexibility, buy the next car with cash, create the ability to walk away from a bad job. For that person, the rule can turn extra cash flow into an extra lifestyle. On the other side, someone buried in high interest debt, they may look at the same rule and feel like a failure because they can't save like the rule says. But that person may not need a pretty percentage chart. They may need a trip to the financial ER, slice and dice those wants hard for a season, build a small cushion, stop using debt as a backup, and then attack that debt. Same rule, completely different financial reality. That's why your budget has to match your season. Survival, recovery, stability, growth. Those seasons shouldn't have the same spending habits. The next weak spot is savings. The rule says to save money. Okay, great, but save for what? Emergency fund? Car repairs? Annual bills? Down payment on a house? Retirement? Debt payoff? Christmas? Those are not the same thing. I remember even as a kid, I had a savings account, and any money that I made, I went into it, cutting grass, picking up aluminum cans, picking up soda bottles at 10 cents a bottle. That's what we made. Eventually, I got the balance to about $100. Man, back then, that was some cabbage. And I remember looking at the written balance ledger and thinking, what now? Now, for a 12-year-old, I blew the money, but for a 12-year-old, that's understandable. But the same thing happened to me when I was around 20. I got about $1,000 back unexpectedly from college tuition. And again, I thought, what now? I had money, but I didn't have direction. I mean, needless to say, that money got blown. But that's the behavioral side most budgeting advice skips. Saving money isn't enough if the money has no purpose. Money without purpose usually gets absorbed back into lifestyle. That's why one vague savings account creates confusion. People think they have savings, but some of that money is already committed to a future spending. If the same account is supposed to cover emergencies, holidays, insurance, repairs, vacations, future goals, well, that's not one savings account. That's 6 jobs hiding behind one balance. Then money comes out and the person feels like they failed. But the money didn't fail, the system failed. An emergency fund is for what you can't predict. An annual expense account is for what you can predict. Years ago, I used to run into a crunch paying one time a year expenses. Thing is, I knew they were coming. HOA dues, car insurance. We used to pay it every 6 months because it's cheaper. Birthdays, anniversary, Christmas, taxes. I knew the dates they were due, but I didn't plan for them until the month before and sometimes the month of. So they'd hit our regular cash flow and it'd make the normal month feel tight. And I got tired of it. And finally, one year I listed them all out, added them up, divided by 12. Then I started moving that amount into a separate account every month. Man, let me tell you, it made things so much easier. When those bills came up, I didn't stress because they didn't mess our monthly cash flow up. The money was already sitting there waiting. Now that's real budgeting. Not just knowing an expense is coming, preparing for it before it arrives. And this is where automation matters. Most people don't fail at savings because they're lazy. They fail because manual saving asks them to make the right decision over and over after the money is already available. Well, that's a weak system. Think about your 401k or health insurance. Most people don't miss that money every paycheck because they never built their lifestyle around it. It comes out first. Then they adjust to what's left. That same idea works with savings. If you wait until the end of the month to save, lifestyle gets first shot at that money. Food delivery gets a vote. Amazon gets a vote. Friends, boredom, convenience, they all get a vote. By the time savings gets a vote, that money's gone. So stop making discipline the whole plan. Move your money before your lifestyle gets a vote. Put bill money where bill money belongs. Put emergency money where emergency money belongs. Put annual expense money where annual expense money belongs. And put savings you don't need immediately somewhere it can earn more without taking risks you don't understand. I had a client once with $30,000 sitting in a basic savings account earning almost nothing. Having savings wasn't the problem. Placement was. So I asked him, what kind of emergency is going to come up that you're going to need $30,000 in a day? And we calculated a number that gave him that warm, fuzzy feeling that if something came up, he had immediate access to. He kept that money in a basic savings account and moved the rest to a high-yield savings account. That's the point. Not just, do I have savings, but is the money in the right place for the job that it has? The 50-30-20 rule can be useful as a quick check. It can show if needs are too high, if wants are crowding out progress, if savings is being ignored. But use it to diagnose your budget, not justify your spending. The real system is what happens after payday, where the money goes, what job it has, and whether it moves before your lifestyle gets a vote. So before your next payday, pick one expense that always seems to come up. Car insurance, Christmas, birthdays, taxes, registration. Add it up, divide by 12, start moving that amount into a separate account every month. That's where budgeting becomes real. Not when money is divided into categories, but when money is put where it needs to be before life gets expensive. We'll see you in the next video.